When Valerie screamed that I was going to be arrested for violating HOA parking codes, I couldn't help but laugh. Not because it was funny, but because the warrant she was waving was so blatantly fake it practically glittered. And I would know I am the police chief and I signed the real ones. That particular fake warrant she had? That's what got her arrested in the end. The look on her face when I didn't so much as blink, you could bottle that expression and replay it on loop every time you need a pick-me-up. She was dressed in full HOA warrior mode, oversized sunglasses that didn't suit her face, a clipboard clutched like it held divine law, and that signature smugness that made milk curdle. The warrant flapping in her perfectly manicured hand looked like it was printed straight from a PowerPoint slide. Glossy paper, Comic Sans font, and yet she stood there like she was the crown queen of code enforcement. Let's rewind a bit. I'm Alex Reyes, 39 years old, sarcastic by nature, and unfortunately for Valerie, the newly moved-in police chief in a quiet cul-de-sac soaked in passive-aggressive newsletters and weaponized block parties. I came here to escape the chaos of the city, find a great school for my daughter, and finally have a driveway big enough for my vintage Jeep, you know. The one that Valerie claimed gave off offensive utilitarian vibes. That was a direct quote. I wish I was joking. When I bought the place, the HOA was more of a myth. No meetings, no fines, just an outdated rulebook collecting dust in someone's drawer. Then Valerie got elected. If you can call 4 people voting over Chardonnay and cupcakes an election. Within a month, she had printed newsletters, posted laminated signs, and began enforcing her beigeness doctrine on the entire neighborhood. I became her main target almost immediately. It probably offended her that I didn't bow to her throne the moment she dropped off her Valerie's rules for harmonious living. First, she went after my daughter's car, too sporty. Then it was the lawn, too natural. Then the Jeep, too masculine. That's when the fines started. $50 for public display of a non-conforming vehicle. $100 for unauthorized curb parking. I laughed it off at first. The citations came on pink glittery paper like a 6th grader's detention slip. But then she crossed the line. I came home one evening after a brutal double shift to find my Jeep gone. Towed. And taped to my garage was a neon yellow sticker that said, "Repeat offender. Final warning." That was the day I stopped laughing. Not because of the Jeep. That sucked, sure, but I could get it back. What pushed me over was the bogus ordinance she cited, Public Safety Ordinance 422. I looked it up. It didn't exist. Valerie had fabricated the entire thing. She wasn't just being annoying anymore, she was impersonating legal authority. That, my friends, put her squarely in my jurisdiction. And so I got to work. I didn't confront her right away. Instead, I collected everything. Every fake citation, every newsletter dripping with legally questionable phrases, every absurd notice taped to my door. I spoke to my neighbors. Turns out I wasn't the only victim. An elderly man told me she threatened to have his grandson arrested for leaving a scooter in the driveway. A young couple got fined for planting daisies without prior HOA aesthetic approval. Valerie was on a one-woman rampage, and it wasn't just petty power tripping. It was darker. And then she delivered that glorious fake arrest warrant. It was tucked inside an envelope labeled urgent legal action. My daughter handed it to me with wide eyes. Valerie had used my job title, misspelled my name, and cited Statute 911B as grounds for an immediate citizen's arrest. She even claimed the HOA had a joint jurisdictional agreement with local law enforcement. I had to read it twice. Felt like a script from a bad crime drama. I couldn't just cuff her on the spot. That's not how it works. I needed something solid, undeniable. So I called in a favor from the county records office. I wanted every HOA action Valerie had filed, every legal doc with her name, and all complaints connected to her in the last year. What came back was a buffet of fraud. Made-up codes. Forged signatures. She'd even used the name of a retired judge who'd been dead for 5 years. She wasn't just pretending to enforce the rules, she was making them up and cashing in. One neighbor paid her $300 in cash to make a noise violation disappear. That wasn't enforcement. That was extortion. And now I had enough to bring it to the district attorney. But Valerie, being Valerie, couldn't help herself. The very next morning I got a voicemail. Her voice was smug. "Consider this your final warning, Chief Reyes. If you don't remove that Jeep, I'll be forced to have you legally detained. You may wear a badge, but you're not above the law." I nearly spit out my coffee. She actually believed she had more power than the police department. I played along. I smiled when she walked by. I pretended to be nervous when she left notes. I nodded solemnly when she waved that ridiculous glitter clipboard like a weapon. Because the sting was coming, and it was going to be perfect. What I didn't expect was her next move. She scheduled an emergency HOA meeting in her driveway, complete with fairy lights and folding chairs. There, in front of half a dozen neighbors, she announced the community's first corrective action. Her plan? A citizen's arrest. Target? Me. Now, here's the thing about people like Valerie, they don't want quiet victories. They want a spectacle. She printed flyers titled HOA Authority Update with an eagle watermark and her own face in the corner. She handed out fake jury summons. Declared disciplinary hearings to be held in her backyard. Spray-painted fire lane on curbs she didn't like. One neighbor cried when she threatened to tow her car over a Live Laugh Love bumper sticker, claiming it was an unapproved political slogan. At night, I reviewed footage from my porch camera. I logged every time she approached my house, left a note, or snooped in yards with a plastic laser measurer. One time she wandered past holding a spray-painted hairdryer, trying to look like she had a radar gun. That's when I stopped being amused and started getting genuinely concerned. She was unraveling. And people were getting hurt. One veteran got fined for aggressive lawn gnome displays. A single mom was threatened for putting up Halloween decorations too early. Valerie even emailed a photo of a foam skeleton to the neighborhood with the subject line, "Violent symbolism equals child trauma." The DA was ready to move. Fraud. Harassment. Impersonating a public official. It was all there. But we needed one final piece, a confession. So I poked the bear. I parked my Jeep crooked on the red curb she painted. I tossed my daughter's pink bike against it for extra flair and sipped coffee on my porch. She took the bait, stormed down the sidewalk, new clipboard in hand, and informed me I was in violation of the corrective curfew placement clause and would now be placed under civilian-led detainment. I asked if she had a warrant. She smiled and pulled out another glossy fake, this one with a wax seal sticker. When I asked who signed it, she said, Judge Alan Matthews. I nearly laughed. Matthews had passed away in 2018. I gave his eulogy. She bragged for 10 minutes straight. Said she had created a hybrid legal system. Talked about a national homeowner database. Explained how she edited PDF court orders and watched legal formatting tutorials. My body cam caught it all. So did the mic hidden in my flower planter. Later that day, I sent everything to the DA. The team was stunned. We scheduled the sting for 3 days out. But Valerie wanted a grand finale. She sent out a neighborhood-wide email, emergency enforcement summit in her backyard. Mandatory attendance. HOA IDs required. She made laminated cards for everyone, complete with barcodes. Her teen nephew and his friend were dubbed enforcement officers and handed out summons. The day of the summit, Valerie turned her patio into a courtroom. Folding chairs, red and gold drapes, a toy gavel. Her nephew and 2 friends in orange vests knocked on doors. Only 5 people showed up and 2 came just to film. She rang a bell and called out charges against neighbors, unapproved solar lights, suspicious Halloween decor, misaligned trash bins. Then she called my name. I walked into the yard. She smiled like she'd just won a prize. Declared me guilty of curb parking and obstruction of community order. Said I'd be under community arrest until my behavior was corrected. I asked if I could appeal. She nodded. I said I do have something to confess. She leaned in excited. That's when I tapped my shirt collar and said, I've been recording this entire summit. And the folks at the DA's office just gave me the go-ahead. Valerie Pratt, you're under arrest. Her face froze. Then she laughed, thinking it was a joke. Until 2 officers stepped out from behind her fence, badges out. Her smile vanished. She tried to argue, waving her fake warrant. The lead officer said, Ma'am, you impersonated a judge, forged legal documents, and extorted your neighbors. We have plenty of jurisdiction. Her nephew ran. Her cousin dropped his Pop-Tart. Valerie was cuffed beside the podium she made from a recycling bin. As she was escorted to the patrol car, she screamed about HOA sovereignty and demanded an appeal. One neighbor clapped. Another set off a firework. The rest of the day we took down her signs. Scraped paint off curbs. Tossed her fake citations in the trash. Someone found the motion-activated speaker she installed. It played her voice saying, "You are being watched. HOA compliance is mandatory." That night, my daughter asked if Valerie was going to jail. I said maybe not forever, but long enough. Her reign was over. The spell was broken. Just as I sat back, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered. A shrill voice hissed, "You think this is over? You have no idea what's coming. Valerie always has a backup plan." Click. The next morning, flyers appeared. Valerie's legacy. A community uprising. Signed by the Citizens for HOA Freedom. The return address? Her cousin's house. He declared himself the acting community legal liaison. Wore a Bluetooth headset. Called his yard the Justice Annex. Some neighbors believed him. Claimed Valerie had been framed. That her HOA program was temporarily suspended pending appeal to a suburban higher court. No such thing exists. But truth doesn't matter when you've got enough laminated flyers. I went door to door. Not as Chief Reyes. Just as the guy at the end of the block. I explained. Showed the video. Most neighbors got it. Some were furious they'd ever trusted her. But the cousin wouldn't let go. He formed the Karen Protection Unit. Orange vests. Clipboards. Documented anti-HOA rhetoric. He even tried to enter Miss June's yard. That was it. I called the city. Reported him for harassment and unauthorized solicitation. The mayor got involved. Apparently, Valerie once sent her a cease and desist letter for using community unity in a speech. The mayor remembered. 48 hours later, it all collapsed. Flyers stopped. Vests vanished. The Justice Annex was cited and dismantled. Someone put up a new sign, Valerie's face in a red circle with a line through it. I didn't make it, but I laughed. At her hearing, Valerie wore a beige suit with an ankle monitor peeking out. She represented herself. Claimed she was filling a legal leadership gap. The judge wasn't amused. Called her delusional. Sentenced her to 18 months of probation, a $5,000 fine, and banned her from any HOA role indefinitely. We celebrated with lawn flamingos. Bright pink. Dozens. A direct violation of Valerie's old decor rules. Kids set up a lemonade stand. Parents drank wine from solo cups. For the first time in months, the neighborhood felt alive. We voted to disband the HOA. Unanimous. We wrote a farewell letter titled, "So Long, Tyranny." Framed Valerie's fake warrant. Hung it in the bulletin box at the entrance. A month later, I got a letter. No return address. One line in red ink. "You may have won the battle, but Valerie plays the long game." My daughter read it and said, "Is she planning to start a prison?" Maybe. Maybe not. But if she tries anything again, we'll be ready. Her glitter clipboard? It's now a lawn ornament in my backyard. Stuck into a flower pot next to a sign that says, "Justice served." The clipboard's bent, sun-faded, and covered in bird poop. And I wouldn't have it any other way.